Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 16 preview episode of Stacking the Box. Iain MacMillan here, Sterling Holmes here. But before we preview NFL Week 16, my friends, we got to talk about the biggest news of the 2024 NFL season. The Michael Penix Jr. era has begun in Atlanta. Kirk Cousins benched Michael Penix in just like we drew it up. I am ready for another left-handed Michael quarterback to lead the Atlanta Falcons to the promised land.
Yeah. I'm happy for you, although I don't know if we should be happy. If you are a Falcons fan, it's better than watching what Kirk Cousins has been doing.
Correct.
But the plan was Kirk Cousins for at least 2 seasons, and that's not going to happen. Now you have the highest priced backup in NFL history. You're looking at a guy who is guaranteed $100 million. He played in, 12, 13 games. He had 5 games where you thought, wow, look what we have. This year was all expectations, not a rebuilding season, and yet you are already rebuilding. Again, now that we know how the season has unfolded, this is the correct move, but a lot of things had to go wrong to get here. I'm happy for you. I'm happy you have at least some sort of hope for the future. I think Michael Penix Jr. was the most NFL-ready quarterback coming out of the draft. So hopefully as far as on-field production, there's still some chances to get some W's going forward. But man, this is not a good look for an organization that had such high expectations, that put so much money into Kirk Cousins, for it to fall apart 13 games into it.
Yeah, that's not a good look, but also it's a good look that they had a backup plan. So that draft pick looks a lot better now. Because what would happen right now if we didn't draft Michael Penix? We'd be dead in the water with no future in sight, and we'd be at 7-7 with no hope of getting a top quarterback in the draft this year unless we trade it up. So that part of it certainly looks good. And also, I don't think the Kirk Cousins contract situation is as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. There are some outs for it. They can trade him. There's a lot of teams out there that could use a quarterback. They could cut him and they'll take some dead cap, but money's not real. The Saints have been $1 billion over cap for over a decade. The cap doesn't really matter in the NFL, so I'm not too worried. And it also doesn't really matter because now a starting quarterback is on a rookie deal anyways.
The pinnacle of an organization to follow, the New Orleans Saints. Yes, everyone knows that's the team you should follow. I will also point out, I will give the Falcons credit. They used the sunk cost theorem here, right? They said, it doesn't matter how much we gave Kirk Cousins. What is the best chance for us going forward? What's the best move?
Which you do have to respect the ability for them to do that.
100%, because that basically says we messed up on Kirk. That's basically what it is. And the stones it takes, again, I know you're saying money's not a thing. He's getting paid $62.5 million this year, $100 million guaranteed. And to say 13 games in, we are done with this experiment and we're going with the younger guy. No, it's not great, but that's a sunk cost. Like, I can at least respect a GM who says, you know what? It's over. We're done with this.
Right.
I don't care how much money. It's why I respected the Broncos, honestly, for even just taking the cap hit of Russell Wilson. It wasn't going to work out. So you're going to have to do something different. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. But that's the right move. You can't think about the money that you are already paying, because that guy's getting paid no matter what, right? No matter what happens, Kirk is getting that money. So what is your best chance moving forward? I give the Falcons credit for at least using the sunk cost theory, and in my opinion, getting it right.
Yeah, and this gives us hope in the final 3 games because we are not going to make the playoffs with Kirk Cousins the way he's been playing. I mean, they gave him one final chance. If he would have even played decent against one of the worst teams in the NFL, the Raiders, he would have been fine, and he couldn't do that. Threw picks, and it's not just the interceptions, the turnovers, which he said in his press conference. He's blaming the turnovers. Every time he felt pressure, he'd just turtle. He was missing wide open guys, especially on Monday night against the Raiders. There's a few key throws on 3rd down. He was just straight up missing open guys. So yeah, Penix gives us hope. If he is NFL ready, as people were saying he was heading into the draft, he can lead us to the playoffs. I have spent a lot of time these past few days, especially this morning, looking through the NFL playoff predictor. And you can click all the results of games and see what kind of happens. The actual most important game this weekend is we need the Eagles to beat the Commanders. If the Eagles beat the Commanders, and that's the reason why Falcons Commanders got flexed to Sunday Night Football in week 17, which is going to be now a pretty fun game with Penix in there. That's going to be a massive game. And the great thing about starting a rookie quarterback is it's almost like it's a lottery ticket. Like when I buy a lottery ticket, I know I'm not going to win. I know probably this quarterback's not going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, but it's all about the hope. I can dream now. Like, what if Penix is just the greatest quarterback of all time?
Well,
what if he leads us to multiple Super Bowls? What if he's the next Patrick Mahomes?
Well, again, I guess that's a very fair point. I think when Patrick was drafted, no one expected this, right? Like we had hope, we had expectations, but I don't think even the most delusional or optimistic Chiefs fan thought that Patrick Mahomes was going to be this. So maybe you are right. Maybe Michael Penix Jr. does turn into something like that. But again, for every for every Patrick, there's a Desmond Ridder, right? And I'm not trying to bring that up, but again, hope is what keeps a fan base alive when the season is not going the way everyone expected it to go. Again, I think the Falcons did the right thing here. Even by all the money that's guaranteed to Kirk, they used the sunk cost. You know I'm a massive fan of that method. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. And by the way, I really thought Desmond Ridder was going to throw that final play. I thought that was about to be a touchdown and rip your heart out. Was it Jacoby Myers?
100%.
Didn't Jacoby Myers basically have it? And it was a tough play. That ball was thrown up. But I think it was Jacoby Myers who got his hands on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. That would have been just the ultimate kick in the stones for Iain.
Because everything was going that right way. The Falcons missed the game-sealing field goal. They didn't get enough first downs to ice it. The Raiders got the ball back with enough time. Desmond Ridder, I was like... And then there was another one. It was like, wasn't there a dropped interception on that final drive? Like, so many small things just didn't go in the Falcons' favor. And then they had those 2 shots at the end zone. I was getting ready to die because I might have...
Serious question for you, Iain,
yes.
And just for Falcons fans in general.
Yes.
What happened to Kirk in the offense? Because I know the Achilles injury, obviously, he was coming off that in the first few games. Pretty good reason why he and the offense were struggling, at least to get on the same page, right? First 2 weeks, especially, you saw a lot of him running at a pistol, and it was a struggle. Like, it was a massive struggle for Kirk Cousins. But then he had about a 5 or 6 game stretch where I'm sitting here going, man, Kirk Cousins looks good. This looks like the Kirk Cousins pre-Achilles injury. This was him in Minnesota. And then all of a sudden, he reverted back. Has there been a re-aggravation, an inflammation? Is there a reason why all of a sudden Kirk went from horrible to pretty damn good to horrible? I just can't wrap my head around this.
I mean, his good performances all came against bad defenses. The Buccaneers' defense has been better lately. First half of the season, their secondary was terrible, which is where the majority of his numbers came from. A good game against the Panthers' defense, that's not saying much. Even against the Eagles, very good final drive, but the Falcons still only scored 22 points in that game. He wasn't good for the first 3 quarters of that game either. So Chiefs game close, but that was mainly because of their defense. They only scored 17 points on offense. So the big Kirk performances either were final drive against the Eagles or against the Buccaneers and Panthers. And then he went on a string against good defenses. And I think what happened once he threw some interceptions, then the fear of turning the ball over more then caused other issues. Then it caused him turtling up when he saw pressure. Then it caused him missing wide open guys because he didn't want to, mess up the throw. So it was a snowball effect, I think.
We can move on, but is the Falcons' offensive line good enough for Michael Penix? Because I think the weapons are solid, right? We both agree Drake London's really good. You and I kind of differ on where you slot him in the, rankings of NFL wide receivers, but we all agree he's a really good receiver. Darnell Mooney's been a legitimate wide receiver too. Kyle Pitts, talented, but very much an underperformer. Really good running backs with both Tyler Algier as well as Bijan Robinson. You know my thoughts on Chris Lindstrom, how good I think he is, but is the rest of the O-line good enough to give Michael time?
Yes, because a lot of times Kirk, I mean, you don't even have to be a fast quarterback, but you need to be able to move around the pocket a little bit, and he did not. He would drop back, and his feet would stay stuck on the ground, and when he got pressure, he would just turtle and fall over. Penix, based on, number one, his youth, and number two, kind of how he looked in college, can move around the pocket. He's not a scrambler. He's not a Mike Vick, Lamar Jackson player, but he has enough mobility in his legs to at least, which is what Patrick Mahomes is so good at.
Or C.J. Stroud, even. C.J. Stroud is a pocket passer, yet C.J. Stroud has enough mobility, especially with his age. Or Joe Burrow. Like, I love people who are saying, with Kirk Cousins, done, the era of the pocket passer is done. I disagree a little bit. Like, Joe Burrow is a pocket passer, right? Patrick, I think, has a little more of moving out and rolling out than Joe. But like CJ Stroud is a young cat, and CJ Stroud, I think, would be considered a pocket passer. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think the pocket passer's done, but you do have to have some sort of mobility. And you're right, Kirk Cousins had zero mobility.
Yeah, I still think Mahomes is the king of that. The amount of times it looks like he's about to get sacked and then he just squirts out of the pocket and then he throws 30 yards downfield to a wide open Travis Kelce is crazy. Like I know Mahomes obviously gets sacked. In my mind, I feel like he's never been sacked in his life. He just finds the perfect step to take, lean his weight a little bit this way, step up this way, step to the side this way, and he's free.
Well, and there's been some statistics shown that Patrick is the best at sack avoidance, right? Pressures to sack avoidance.
And Kirk was probably the worst.
Yeah, and you saw it this past game with the Browns. Patrick was hit 12 times, 12 QB hits, 0 sacks. The Chiefs hit the Browns quarterbacks 11 times, 6 sacks. Again, there's some nuance when it comes to sacks, whether it's in the offensive line or quarterback, and QB hits as well, but Patrick's very good at avoiding that.
All right, last thing I'll say about Penix, I think this is also a great time to start him because you get him Sunday afternoon against a really bad Giants team. You should be able to win even if he doesn't perform at the absolute best. You get his feet wet a little bit, and then the next week is the game of the season against the Commanders in prime time. That would be a disaster first start, so let him one first start, afternoon, not a ton of eyes on you, easy opponent, and then gear up, and then the game of the year is next week. All right, we've got a lot of games to get through, but before we do that, Underdog, it is the best place to cash in on all your takes this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are ice cold? Make your entries in just a few taps and turn your sports opinions into real money. Join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog with their Pick'em game. You could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Underdog is the best place to play champions, so sign up and deposit now using promo code STACKINGTHEBOX. That is all one word, STACKINGTHEBOX, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. I do have a Underdog lineup for Thursday Night Football that I will share with you right now in 1 second. I'm going to go Justin Herbert, lower than 249.5 passing yards. Cortland Sutton, higher than 5.5 receptions. I'm going to go Chargers backup running back, Kamani Vidal, over or higher than 27.5 rushing yards. And then I'm tossing in a long shot here to get us north of 30-1 payback on this. I'm going to go Derwin James to record an interception. Higher than 0.5 interceptions for Derwin James is my Underdog lineup for Thursday Night Football. Download the app today and use the code STACKINGTHEBOX to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Higher or lower, you make the call on Underdog. Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY 467-369. We got to rip through these games, Sterling, since we spent 15 minutes on Penix.
And you spent 15 minutes on that ad read. My goodness, that legalese.
Yeah.
Come on, the legal part. You got to rip through that legal part.
I know. I got to practice.
I do like your stack. I do like your Underdog lineup, though. I will grant you that.
Derwin James.
I'm intrigued because Bo Nix did just throw 3 interceptions, so correct. I am intrigued by that.
Also, I love Derwin James. He's like an old school safety. We don't see many safeties like Derwin James anymore.
Agreed.
All right, let's start with Thursday Night Football. Broncos against Chargers. Big game in the AFC West playoff picture. If you are a Bengals fan, you absolutely want the Chargers to win this game because even though the Broncos have one more win, I think the reason why is because the Bengals do not have the tiebreaker against the Chargers, but the Bengals play the Broncos next week. So if the Broncos go 0-3, Bengals go 3-0 to finish the season, and the Broncos' schedule is a lot tougher than the Chargers too. They got Broncos, then Bengals, then Chiefs to close things out. So the Bengals' best path to victory is for the Broncos to lose this game.
Yeah, I guess you're correct.
I have spent a lot of time in the NFL playoff machine.
Dude, yeah, you spent way too much time.
Yeah.
We'll get to the best bets, obviously, at the end of the show, but this should be a really fun game. Again, you know my thoughts on Thursday Night Football having massive playoff implications. I am not a fan. Again, not a fan of playing this on Thursday night. Wish it was a Sunday or a Monday night game with, again, how much playoff implications are on the line, but I am really looking forward to this, an enjoyable Thursday night.
I have concerns about the Chargers because their two biggest strengths at the start of the year was they were able to run the ball effectively and they played good defense. They have not been able to run the ball well since J.K. Dobbins has gone out. That's why they've kind of turned to Kamani Vidal, who I know the Chargers couldn't run the ball a ton last week because they were down and had to play catch-up. But Vidal played 62% of snaps, I think. Gus Edwards kind of took a back seat there. So, like, the Chargers are trying to find some kind of spark of electricity in their running game. It's not the same without J.K. Dobbins, and their defense has taken a step back in recent weeks as well. So I'd be concerned if I was a Chargers fan, both for this game and for their playoff hopes as a whole. Texans Chiefs. The spread has completely flipped because the Chiefs look-ahead line was Chiefs -4. The news was that Patrick Mahomes was kind of doubtful for Saturday. The Texans were then 2.5-point favorites. Me being smart, thinking Mahomes might still play in this game, took the Chiefs at +2.5. Mahomes now looks like he's going to play. The line is flipped back the other way. Chiefs now 3-point favorites. You do believe, I assume, Mahomes is going to play because that's what all the reports say.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this. I know he was a full participant in the last 2 days, but Andy had talked about it. These weren't like full-on practices. They were basically being very cautious with Patrick. So I don't know for sure. That's the way it's looking like Patrick is trending towards playing, but I wouldn't be surprised if they went with Carson. Like again, if it were me, I'm starting Carson Wentz this game. I am. That's my personal opinion here because get Patrick healthy. Like you have a 1.5 game basically a 1.5 game lead on the Bills, slight wiggle room, but I think you can win with Carson Wentz. He's a good backup quarterback, and Patrick's ankle is completely banged up. Not the same as what happened in the playoffs against Jacksonville. He talked about it. It's similar, but a lot less severe than that Jacksonville injury. But still, with the offensive line issues, Patrick needs to save himself from himself. I don't know if he will. I would sit Patrick. But again, starting to look like he is, he's going to have the final say, of course. And we know he wants to be out there.
He's a dog. If he can go, he's going to go as long as the team allows him to. All right, Steelers, Ravens, the other Saturday game, big one. Ravens can tie the Steelers atop the AFC North with a win here. My biggest thought going into this game is how much better the Ravens defense has been lately. Their secondary specifically was bottom 10, bottom 5 up until week 10. From week 11 till currently, so week 11 through week 15, fifth in opponent dropback EPA, second in opponent dropback success rate. They have fixed their secondary. If they can fix their penalty issue, they're going to be a top contender in the AFC.
Like the under, this is going to be, it's always these two teams, they just grind it out. It's always ugly, always gross. It's AFC North football. I hope it snows because it's perfect when these two teams play, especially in bad weather. Lamar, though, I think is trying to prove that he's the MVP yet again. So if they get up, expect Lamar to still throw the football, to still run the football. We know Lamar wants that third MVP, right? There's a lot to that, and I don't blame him. So we'll see how the game script goes in this one, but I still would personally go with the under in this one. Really looking forward to watching this, though.
All right, let's move on to Sunday's games. Sunday's slate is actually not really that good whatsoever. TS, we'll get to your fantasy football question when Lior comes on in a little bit. We'll talk some fantasy football, so hang tight. We will answer that. Bears, Lions. Bears 6.5-point home underdogs. Lions obviously still in control of the number 1 seed, but you got to think the laundry list of injuries that the Lions have suffered are going to catch up to them at some point. Now, is it going to catch up to them against the Bears, who kind of look like they stink? Or is it going to be a little bit later? Because now you have David Montgomery, obviously, out, Khalil Dorsey, Carlton Davis, Aleem McNeil, like Trevor Nowaski is how I think he pronounced the last name. He's questionable too. So laundry list of injuries for the Lions. Does it catch up to them this week against the Bears?
No, because they're still way more talented than the Bears. They're better coached than the Bears. They don't have Caleb Williams at quarterback. I still like the Lions in this one. Maybe I don't know about 6.5 on the road, but I'm still taking the Lions in this one. I think they find a way to grind one out.
I will give my take on who's going to win the game later when we get to the pick section of the show, Sterling.
Ooh.
Browns and Bengals. Pretty meaningless game. Well, it's not meaningless for the Bengals. For them to have any chance to make the playoffs, they need to win this game. The Browns are going with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They've seen enough from Jameis Winston. The Denver Broncos game was fun, but then after that, the 2 games after that, we saw the interception version of Jameis, but not the touchdown throwing version of Jameis. So Dorian Thompson-Robinson in for the Browns against the Bengals. Bengals big-time favorites. You would think they win this game, probably run away with it.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs just bottled him up. The Chiefs were just outstanding. The one thing you have to worry about is, I don't know why you're laughing. I mean, that was one of the best defensive performances of the season. I mean, like, it was incredible.
You're right, but I'm laughing because we're talking Browns-Bengals, but you're going to open up your take with just complimenting how good the Chiefs are.
No, I'm saying that's why Jameis is getting sad. I don't know if I would sit Jameis this game because the Bengals don't have the same secondary.
Yeah, he was bad the week before, too, though.
He was bad the week before, but again, that's the risk you're going to take with Jameis. I mean, that's who he is. Again, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think Jameis could take advantage of the Bengals secondary more so than DTR could. What's this do to Jerry Jeudy? Jerry Jeudy had a real nice connection. You at least had a floor, it felt like, offensively. Yeah, I like the Bengals in this one because I just don't trust DTR.
Jerry Jeudy, 5th in the NFL in receiving yards this season.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Oh, he's the reason why I'm in my fantasy football championship. No one cares, I know. But when you draft CMC first and Michael Pittman Jr. second round, you're going to have some unsung heroes. So thank you to Jerry Jeudy.
All right, what do we got here next? Eagles Commanders, the biggest game. In my opinion, I'm getting dangerous just handing the Falcons the win for the Giants. I don't think they'll lose.
Man, that's bold.
Yeah, maybe that is. In my opinion, the game that I'm most nervous for, that I need to go a certain way, is the Eagles and Commanders. I need the Commanders to lose this game or else the Falcons' playoff chances take a massive hit. So Eagles only 3.5-point favorites, though, on the road.
Yeah, I like the Eagles. Whether the 10-game win streak, obviously, the whole A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts situation seems to be water under the bridge. Man, I just don't know how you pick against the Eagles right now. I really don't. I think they're playing maybe the best in the NFL. You and I have talked about it. You know, the Lions have been given so much love. The Ravens had been given so much love. It kind of felt like the Eagles were almost, for as good as they were, not talked about. Because even the Chiefs would be like, are the Chiefs frauds or not? But maybe I'm wrong, but I just felt like the Eagles were almost under talked about. In any way, I think the Eagles, again, ever since Cooper DeJean went into the slot, their defense has been really damn good. I like the Eagles. I don't know about the points, but right now I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL.
I agree. I think it was the Lions until the Lions have now suffered too many injuries. So Eagles dominated them the last time they played, even worse than the scoreboard indicated. I think they do it again. If the Commanders win, the Falcons basically can't get into a wild card spot unless the Commanders lose to the Cowboys in the final week of the season. So I desperately need the Eagles to win. If they don't, I need the Buccaneers to lose on Sunday Night Football, or else the Falcons season is pretty much over. Yeah. And also, to make next week's Sunday Night Football game more exciting, let's cheer for the Eagles. Because then pretty much that Sunday Night Football game is the winner gets the wild card spot.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Barring the Falcons losing to the Panthers in Week 18, which I wouldn't put it past them.
Oh, they might. They might lose to the Giants.
What? Or the Giants. Yeah, but they like to break our hearts in the most painful way possible, so they'll wait till Week 18. Rams against Jets. Jets 3.5-point home underdogs. The Rams obviously in the driver's seat now for the NFC West. Still kind of have a chance for the wild card spot as well if the Seahawks end up taking it. But based on how I've clicked through the playoff predictor, the Rams, I think, lose tiebreakers to quite a few other teams in the mix for a wild card. So for them, it's basically NFC West or bust. This seems like a sneaky game they could lose, though.
Yeah. Again, I like the Rams over the Bills. Sometimes when you have, like a couple weeks ago, right? Like sometimes just certain matchups that you have a feeling about. It almost feels like a game the Jets come out and win, especially with the connection that Rodgers had with Devontae Adams last week.
They played well recently.
They really have. They haven't had a lot of wins this year by any means, but there have been some glimpses. They've collapsed down the stretch a few times. That Jets defense is not the same Jets defense that we're used to seeing. A little bit of a surprise. I like you know what, I'll give it later on. I just actually switched one of my best bets because I think this is switched it to this game. You'll have to see which part of this game I really enjoy. But I'm with you. This is a very intriguing game and one that I don't have a great feeling if you're the Rams.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking with the spread being over a field goal. Definitely like the points with the Jets here. Don't necessarily trust them to close out games because they've blown a lot of games late this season. But yeah, they're a feisty team and they've played well recently. So yeah, and the Rams secondary a little bit suspect too. Also, by the way, the Rams beat the 49ers last week on Thursday Night Football. One of the ugliest games all season. But like no one's like, because they were the right side of it, no one's like giving them crap for it. You know what I mean? Like, that was a bad game.
They beat the Bills and then the Niners. So you at least have, again, you're preaching to the choir. Chiefs fan here. Anytime the Chiefs win a close game, it's, oh my gosh, they win ugly. Another team in the NFL wins in an ugly way, and they say, wow, look at them finding a way to grind out a victory. I get what you're saying. I'm almost always, though, team, if you win a NFL football game, you don't apologize for it. It is so hard to win in the NFL, ugly or not. The Rams were able to do it. And now you've seen them win ugly and win pretty. The back-to-back weeks. There is something to that.
We don't need to get in the whole Chiefs thing. I think the thing with the Chiefs, though, is they win ugly every week. Almost every week.
Sure.
If you win a couple of ugly games, no one's going to say anything. If it's an 8th ugly win in a row, it's like people are going to say stuff. We don't need to have that argument again. Where are we at? Cardinals, Panthers. Cardinals still alive technically in the NFC West. This is obviously a must win for them. They're going to need some help down the stretch as well. Panthers went back to the old Panthers last week against the Cowboys. I don't really know what to think of this one.
Yeah, I'm going Cardinals. You know my thoughts on the Cardinals. I need them to win to somewhat prove me right for my preseason predictions. Yeah, you're right. The Panthers had been feisty, and then that game against the Cowboys was somewhat of a letdown. Yeah, I don't know. I like the Cardinals here. Kyler Murray's been bad in the second half, but I think he turns it around.
Giants, Falcons. The spread actually went against the Falcons when Penix Jr. was named the starter. They were 10-point favorites with Kirk. Since Penix got announced, that line has moved down 1.5, down to Falcons 8.5. I know it's a first start for a rookie. It's also really late for a rookie to have a first start. That probably works against him maybe. But at the end of the day, it's the Giants. It's the Giants, and they're on the road. It's in Atlanta. Who are the Giants starting at quarterback? Do we know?
Drew Lock.
Is Drew Lock getting back to the start?
That's what I saw today. So
that I would rather it be Tim Boyle or Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, Drew Lock's the best of the three, I think.
But still not. He's still not. Like,
no. He's done nothing this year. He's not looked the same, really. Like, he had that chance to beat out Geno Smith in Seattle, and once that happened, we have not seen the same Drew Lock, at least even the glimpses. We saw some throws, one of his first starts when Darius Slayton dropped 2 deep balls that would have really made his stat line look better, but still, it wasn't enough. I don't know, though, man. 8.5 for a rookie quarterback? That's a lot, man.
Even if he doesn't have a great game, they're going to be able to run the ball all over the Giants. The Giants can't stop the run. And Bijan Robinson, hidden in all of this crap that's been going on with the Falcons, Bijan Robinson has been fantastic this season.
Yeah.
I think he's been the number 2 fantasy running back, maybe number 3. Also, I'm trying to look up. My Kirk Cousins jersey is now garbage. That was a waste of money. So I can't wear my Kirk Cousins jersey anymore. One of the worst jersey purchases I've ever made. I got a little over my skis with Kirk Cousins. I got to go back to my AJ Terrell jersey. AJ Terrell's actually having a bit of a bounce back season, and he's played very well lately. My point in saying that, if AJ Terrell can shut down Malik Neighbors or at least slow him down, the Giants got nothing. All right. Titans, Colts. Colts I didn't put in the spread for some reason in the notes. They're 3.5-point favorites. I'm back on the Titans again.
I'm on the under.
Yeah,
I don't know what to
probably
make
the way to go.
of Anthony Richardson though, man. Like,
He's not good.
but every once in a while, and that's what's so hard is every once in a while you will see a glimpse, and you're like, damn, now I see why he was drafted where he was drafted.
But
But it's
glimpses are
only,
enough.
yep, it's only just a glimpse. I will also say the Colts against the Broncos last week, it was all changed because of a Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball before he went into the end zone, which for the life of me, I don't understand. Do you think you look cool? Is it cooler the closer you drop it by the goal line? Like, I honestly, I cannot fathom why players in the year 2024 are still doing this. You and I have talked about this many a time, and it still happens.
It's one of life's biggest mysteries, to be honest.
Like,
it's the eighth wonder of the world because it continues to happen.
I just don't get it. Like, why?
Has anyone asked these players, like, what's going through your mind? Do they just, like, think they're already in the end zone?
Like, do you think you're 3 yards? Hold it until you absolutely know.
You're right.
Malachi Corley. Like,
Yep.
remember the Jets early on in the season? Like, I just don't understand. Screwed my upset pick. Thank you, guys. Thanks, JT. Love it. But yeah, man, I just don't know what to make of this. I like the Colts, but it's because the Titans are so darn bad. Who's starting for the Titans? They sat Will Levis.
Mason Rudolph is starting.
Ugh, under.
Vikings Seahawks, the last kind of interesting game here, and then we can just like rip through these last few. But Vikings Seahawks, very interesting one, obviously important for a lot of different reasons in the NFC playoff hunt. Seahawks still trying to win the NFC West. Seahawks still have a chance to get a wild card. Week 18, some weird things can happen. They have a tiebreaker against the Falcons, so if the Seahawks and Falcons finish at 10-7, Seahawks get in the wild card picture. And then there's the Vikings, who, with all the injuries to the Lions, like all of a sudden, not only the NFC North opens up for the Vikings, the number one seed in the conference opens up a little bit for the Vikings. So big game for both teams.
Yeah, this should be extremely entertaining. The Vikings defense against Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense. Still not completely sure if Kenneth Walker is going to be back this week. Zach Charbonnet's done a nice job in reserve for the Seahawks offense, but JSN has been the guy who's really stepped up. DK Metcalf has really taken a back seat, it feels like, and JSN's been the guy to go into that wide receiver one role in Seattle, and it's been very, very effective.
All right, Patriots Bills. 14-point favorites. The Bills don't really have much to talk about this game, although I think the spread's too big.
Yeah, it's just too many points. I never would take a 14-point spread. Like, that's just way too much in my opinion.
Well, I take it sometimes. I took it last week when the Ravens played the Giants. I think you can lay this many points when, number one, it's a bad team, and number two, that bad team is also starting a backup quarterback. Not the case here, though. Drake May is too consistent for me to want to lay 14 points on one side. Now, if the Patriots were starting whoever the backup quarterback is, Jacoby Brissett, then I'd probably lay the 14 points with the Bills.
Agreed. And by the way, the Bills' defense has been atrocious. Everyone keeps talking about how great the Bills' offense is. They have been. Bills' defense has given up 40 points in back-to-back games.
Yep.
I love some dude on Twitter who goes, well, who's stopping the Bills when they're scoring 40 points a game? And someone immediately tweeted back and goes, you mean they're 1-1 in the last 2 games?
Right, like, the Rams 2 weeks ago.
Literally, I just amnesia sometimes, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills certainly shouldn't, especially with the fact that the number one seed still in the mix for the Bills. They should win that game handily. 49ers, Dolphins, the battle between the two most disappointing teams in the NFL this season. Would you call them the two most disappointing teams? They are to me. Maybe the Cowboys might kind of be in that mix, but I think it's the 49ers and the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins were my Super Bowl pick. So
Jets, Cowboys, 49ers,
Jets.
Falcons.
Well, Falcons are still in the mix, though.
Yeah, but they've still been very disappointing. I think probably the Jets for me would be the most disappointing, but Niners are probably second. Dolphins.
Yeah.
I'd go Jets, Niners, Falcons, I thought the Dolphins were taking a step back, so I wasn't as high on them as you were. I had them missing the playoffs, if I remember correctly. Maybe the Bengals would also be a disappointment, but I think I had them as a 7th seed, and they still have a chance at the 7th seed, so that wouldn't be that far off. But yeah, Dolphins have to have this to have any sort of chance, right? I mean, if they lose this, it's done. I still don't know what to make of the Niners. I really don't. I still think they're fairly well coached. I think they still have some players. I don't know what happened to Deebo Samuel. I don't know what's going on with Brock Purdy. I would not pay Brock Purdy that $60+ million that seems to be the alleged asking price per year.
I would.
Well, What?
Well,
We'll have a conversation for another day on that because that's just
yes,
absurd. Oh my
because
God.
that's going to be 15 minutes right there. But I would.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, man. Because he can totally be an elevator.
Yep. That's a
Sam Darnold.
conversation.
The whole
That's a
Sam
conversation for another day.
Sam
We're on
Darnold's playing
time.
better than Brock Purdy.
I'll take the 49ers in this one because of Brock Purdy. Well, if Brock Purdy was a top 10 pick, people would be praising him. But because he was Mr. Irrelevant, people still continue to just assume he's bad.
I don't assume he's bad, but he's definitely not an elevator that deserves $60 million a year. He's only been good when he has a bleep ton of weapons around him. When those guys go out, what happens?
Oh, sorry. Because I'm actually not too familiar with contracts. Where does 60 million place him in terms of highest paid quarterbacks right now?
I believe that'd be the most.
Oh, okay. Maybe not then. Sorry. I'm not familiar with contracts. I figured it'd put him at like 5th, 6th, 7th.
Yeah, no.
Okay. No. Well, if 60 million's the most, then yeah, maybe not. I need to dive into that before that might be a take I'll have, but I need to line up my ducks in a row before I come up with that quick take. Jaguars, Raiders, don't care.
Oops,
I'll take the home team, Jaguars, Raiders, I guess.
I will take any other game to watch.
It's a coin flip game. Give me the home team, I guess. Don't care.
Sure.
Buccaneers, Cowboys. I'm surprised the spread is so small. It would be a real nice Christmas treat if the Cowboys can win this game.
Cowboys haven't played bad football though. Like the Cowboys haven't won.
I mean, they're 3-1 in their last 4.
Yeah, and they probably should have won the game they lost. Right? Which game was that? Was that
the Bengals? The Bengals, the weird punt thing they're in it all game.
Yeah. I mean, the Cowboys have been slightly impressive. Is it enough to keep Mike McCarthy's job? I don't think so, but you have to be impressed with that team not rolling over, especially when that whole situation against the Bengals happened. Yeah, I've been impressed, but still give me the Buccaneers, but it might be enough to keep Mike McCarthy's job.
Also, Cowboys are still technically somehow alive for the playoffs, but I'm looking at NFL.com and it's saying their playoff probability right now is less than 1%. If they win, their playoff probability is less than 1%. Like, I think they basically need everyone in front of them to just lose out.
Yeah.
But hey, they might convince themselves that they're still in it.
Sure.
I would love a Cowboys upset. That would make my holiday. All right, and then of course the Monday Night Football game we will talk on Monday's show, which will be a super show. We will talk Monday Night Football. We will recap Sunday's games, and then we will also preview Week 14 because we are not going to have a show on Christmas Day. All right, we are going to give out picks, but before we get to picks, it's time to get to Lior's Fantasy Corner here. Lior Lampert, what's going on?
Hey, fellas, what's going on?
Living the dream. I have survived to the semifinals in 3 fantasy football leagues. I thought I was dead in the water in all of them at the start of the year. So I'm interested in some fantasy football talk specifically because the topic of the day for fantasy, I think, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it also relates to the topic of the day for Falcons fans, and that is Michael Penix getting the start. I have a super flex league. Derek Carr was my second quarterback. He went down. I tried to get Michael Penix added last night in the waiver wire, and I did not. Someone was higher in priority. It was not. Actually, I could only bid $0. So it actually is a fantasy free agent budget, and I had $0 left. Someone bid. I don't know what they bid, but it was more than 0 and got him. But if you are in a league and you are looking for another quarterback, is Michael Penix a viable option this weekend against the Giants?
Well, first of all, I want to say congrats to you, Ian. It's a big step in the right direction for your Falcons as Penix is coming in.
Thank you.
And like you guys alluded to before, it's kind of a tough spot, rookie quarterback coming in this late in the season during a playoff race. But given the circumstances, it's hard to think of a much better matchup than the Giants. They allow the 8th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Since week 13, the Giants have allowed 7 passing touchdowns, which is tied for the most in the NFL during that span. New York is 28th in yards per pass attempt. The Giants were one of the better pass rushing units early in the season in terms of pressure rate, though they've settled in as like a middle of the pack / lower tier unit in that regard since losing stud defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence. So I think Penix will have time to throw. We all know how bad it's been with Kirk Cousins over the past 5 games. He's looked like a shell of his former self, boasting a 1-to-9 touchdown to INT ratio, and he's been statuesque in the pocket. So at least Penix can move around, gives you some sort of mobility there. He's not necessarily the most mobile quarterback, but He was touted as the most pro-ready prospect of this 24 draft class, and considering he's had 6 years of collegiate experience, I think that he should kind of slide in rather seamlessly. He's got a live arm and should pump some life into the Falcons' passing attack, which will boost their whole fantasy ecosystem, if you ask me. And it's hard to get much worse than it's been with Cousins. So I think Drake London, Darnell Mooney, even Kyle Pitts should all see their floor and ceiling improve down the stretch with better quarterback play.
Lior, I have to say, shout out to you on the DK Metcalf. Sit that guy. Good call. I sat DK Metcalf. I started, who did I start instead? I think Jerry Jeudy instead. And that was a very good call. And because of that, I am now in the finals. I'm in my championship game of my fantasy, my money league, which is very exciting. Question for you. Is it still sit DK Metcalf season? DK Metcalf against Minnesota's defense. If it were you, is it a sit or play? Is it a, Jerry Jeudy, DK Metcalf, or Tyrone Tracy? Which two of those guys you picking?
Oh, I think Jameis Winston getting benched kind of really severely damages Jerry Jeudy's fantasy value. Kind of just makes him incredibly hard to trust. I think he's still like a fringe wide receiver 3, but I mean, DK's upside is much higher now, obviously, with James out of the picture. And I did see Tyrone Tracy popped up on the injury report today, so I'd say keep an eye on that. But if he is good to go, I would probably play him against the Falcons.
We do have a question in the chat that's a fantasy question. TS says sit one PPR. I mean, I think this is an obvious answer, but I mean, I'm no fantasy guru. Evan, Scary Terry, or Joe Mixon. You sit Mixon, right?
Yeah, I mean, right now I feel like it probably is Mixon, but also I believe the Commanders, they play the Eagles, correct? Right?
Yeah, that's true. It's a tough matchup.
It's a tough matchup. But also, it's not much easier for Mixon against the Chiefs. And obviously, he got banged up on a hip drop tackle last week, which is worth noting. He really didn't look the same afterwards, despite finishing the game. But honestly, I think I would lean Mixon over Terry just because of the workload that we can bet on him getting. The just sheer volume probably outweighs Terry, in my opinion. He's pretty much locked into like at least 15 to 20 touches on a weekly basis as long as he's healthy.
All right. The other big question is, what do we do with Patrick Mahomes, who may or may not play? It looks like he's leaning towards playing. It's Saturday. It's obviously fantasy football semifinals. What do people do who have Patrick Mahomes in their lineup?
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal, especially because Mahomes hasn't really been the fantasy superstar we've been accustomed to seeing this season.
He hasn't been, you're right.
But his status for Week 16 is definitely worth monitoring. The Chiefs are ostensibly giving him every chance to play. Reports and his full practice participation today indicate that he's gonna play. But can managers trust him with a trip to the fantasy championship on the line? Maybe. But I feel like pivoting is probably a better option for me. Michael Penix Jr. does make for a viable alternative for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Cooper Rush is another interesting name and widely available. He was Week 15's quarterback 9, marking his second top 10 positional finish of the season. The positive momentum definitely bodes well for him heading into a matchup with the Tampa Bay Bucks, who allow the 4th most passing yards per game. Also, another one is Drake May. He's posted consecutive top 11 weekly finishes, so like fringe quarterback 1. And he heads into a Week 16 matchup with a sizzling Buffalo Bills offense. So considering the Pats are 14-point underdogs, and in that upcoming contest, I think that we should see an opportunistic game script for Drake May. And also, last but not least, the Ravens are the NFL's premier pass funnel, which makes Russell Wilson an interesting streaming option, even if George Pickens can't suit up. I think if Pickens does suit up, it's much better for him, of course. But Steelers play caller Arthur Smith is going to have no choice but to try attacking through the air against the league's most stout run-stopping unit. So I think that Russell Wilson does make for a plug-and-play option too. And I think if Mahomes doesn't go, Carson Wentz would not be a recommended option for fantasy managers. Ooh. I think you can definitely do better with any of the 4 guys I mentioned before.
Producer Sean has a fantasy question as well. Should I start Drake May? So it'd be Drake May against the Bills or Kyler Murray against the Panthers.
Wow. I mean, as someone who was high on Kyler Murray coming into the year, and I have him in a league as well, I'd probably stick with my guy. I mean, the schedule, the Pats are a pretty solid matchup. Not a great matchup, but by any means. But you got to trust Kyler's rushing floor. Also, Cardinals are playing for something right now, which matters a lot too. So I just think that you're going to see the best version of Kyler that you need to see on the field. At least he's gonna try to give you everything he can, considering
Please,
the circumstances.
please, Kyler, I need you. I need you, Kyler.
His December numbers have not been great
No,
in his career, but I would agree. I think you have to go Kyler, especially against
probably because of
the
Call of Duty coming out around December. Anyone?
Call of Duty, lack of watching film, the holidays, who knows? But Kyler's December numbers are
Cheeks,
worrisome.
buns.
Definitely.
Sterling, you agree Wentz not a recommended option if he goes?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't start Wentz.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends how deep your league is and how many quarterbacks you rock with, obviously. But
Yeah.
if you're in a 10-man league, I would be shocked if you couldn't find a quarterback better to use than Carson.
You think the Chiefs go run heavy with Wentz under center, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think you do. I still think you'll see him throw the ball a good amount. Andy Reid will generate a lot of, but I think you're probably looking more at like a 200-yard pass line, maybe one touchdown, probably no interceptions, but more of a game manager type. He does have a slight rushing floor as far as if they got on the goal line, I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't run a QB sneak. The Chiefs never run a QB sneak, especially with Patrick, but they would with Carson. So maybe you have that in there going for you, but that's just too risky for me. I think you're probably looking at a guy who puts up 10 to 12 fantasy points, and I don't think that's going to be enough.
Yeah, it sounds like a reasonable expectation to me.
All right, I got one final fantasy question for selfish reasons, Lior, and then we'll get you out of here. I in the semifinals, one of my leagues that I made it in, I had some unfortunate luck last week. I lost both David Montgomery and Nick Chubb. So I need a waiver wire running back. I ended up picking up Tajay Spears was the best one available based on projected numbers. I also considered Justice Hill or Raheem Mostert.
It sounds like you made the right choice, but I'm assuming you're speaking under the assumption that Jerome Ford and Kendre Miller were not available.
Not available.
Okay, so yeah, I think you made the right choice with Spears. Pollard, he saw a season low, I believe, in usage this week, or in terms of snap count. It was the first time that Tajay Spears actually outsnapped him this season. It's noteworthy. Pollard was dealing with an injury coming into the game, and I believe he re-aggravated the issue during the contest as well. And Spears is coming off probably the best game of his career as well. And head coach Brian Callahan has definitely vocalized his desire to get both running backs involved this year, despite not actually doing so consistently. So I think now with Spears' performance and Pollard's injury, he sort of has an alibi to do so, and I expect him to be more of a committee situation moving forward.
All right, there you go. Tajay Spears, he's in. I need him. Losing Montgomery, Nick Chubb in the same week was not ideal. Heading in the semifinals.
It's brutal.
All right,
Definitely
Lior,
brutal.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
No, I was saying it was definitely brutal, but I feel like honestly Spears might even be an upgrade to Nick Chubb. If you ask me, Chubb's been pretty brutal.
True. All right, Lior, thank you so much for joining us here. You can follow him on Twitter /X at Lior Lampert. And Lior, let the people know where they can find the rest of your work.
Always fansided.com. If you need any more of my written content, feel free to go there.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, Lior. Good luck to you in any fantasy football playoffs that you are still alive in. Good luck to the listeners in your fantasy football playoffs. And good luck to, most importantly, us.
I'm in the finals, and I am
finals already. You guys have a week 16 final.
Yeah, because we complained about having too many people sit out the final week, and I don't know how we did it. I wish we do a 2-week final, but it's only a 1-week one. So here we are, and my team is absolutely ass, and somehow I made it. I snuck in the playoffs. I had to go on like a 4-game win streak. I was like the Bengals. Everything had to go right. Everything somehow went right. And now we're here, and I don't know what to do. Thank you, Lad McConkey.
Yeah, the league I'm in with the SI betting team, I stopped paying attention halfway through because my team was trash and I was near the bottom of the standings. And then I looked and I was in the playoffs, and then I somehow won last. Josh Allen has just carried me the last few weeks. So I'm also in the semifinals. My team is trash.
CMC, Michael Pittman Jr., Zamir White. Somehow this was a team that made it to the playoffs. There's no idea how.
All right, let's wrap up with our picks for the week. Sterling, for the first time in a long time. Winning week for both of us last week. How about that?
Wow, look at us.
We both hit our spread and our total for last week. I hit Jets -3. You hit Bengals -5. Our total was Cowboys Panthers over 43 was mine. That hit by a point.
I missed my.
Oh no, you missed yours.
I went 1 and 2. Yeah, because they scored. It was over under 46 and Pats Cardinals, and it was in the 30s with 3 minutes left to go in the game, and they both decided, hey, what if we just scored 2 touchdowns? So
damn, I got to fix the records because I don't know why I marked that as a win. I apologize. And I even said we had a winning week. We actually didn't because now that's 3-3 that we win.
Yeah.
Neither of us hit our upset pick.
Yeah,
Thanks to Jonathan Taylor for you and Tua for throwing 18 interceptions for me.
Yeah.
Damn. All right. Damn. Well, let's get a winning week this week.
I'm still positive for the season, though. Okay?
Yes, you are.
So
I don't
huge.
have your correct record now. I had it as 22-20 for plus 4.92 units. That's going to be now 21-21 for 3-point-something units. But you have been really good with your upsets generally, which is why you're 500, but still positive. I've improved to 17-24-1 for minus 6.51 units. My picks have been terrible all across the board this season.
I believe in you.
My excuse is that it's been a very good season and a half for public bettors. And because I am a sharp, that's why I'm losing. I'm actually too smart and too good at betting, and that's why I'm losing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. That's my spin zone.
Tracks.
All right, spread bet for this week, Sterling.
Yeah, I went Giants plus 8.5. I actually almost went with the opposite of what you went with, and that wasn't even me trying to be a D-bag. I just actually felt like that, but I didn't want to do that because that's no fun.
So then you pick against my favorite team instead.
I picked against your favorite team instead. I think 8.5 is just too many points. I'm sorry, but it's Drew Lock. It's a rookie quarterback for Atlanta. All
right.
Yeah, I think 8.5 is too many. I think the Falcons win, by the way, but I did almost pick the Giants as my upset pick.
I'd be shook if that happens. Because I just really want the Falcons Commanders Sunday Night Football to be a huge game. So I
do too.
The Falcons have to win.
What I want and what I think are two different things.
Yeah. I'm going to take Ravens minus 6. I just can't get over how much better their defense has been. And the Steelers, I think I figured out the Steelers. I think you bet the Steelers no matter what, like the first 12 weeks of the season. And then the rest of the season, I think you kind of bet against them.
Yeah.
Because I think they're getting exposed on the road against a much improved Ravens defense. Sorry?
I think 6 is too much. That was my takeaway. Yeah.
I mean, the Ravens can't have 12 penalties. They got to fix that penalty issue. Upset of the week. I'm going bold, Sterling. I'm trying to take like upsets who actually have a chance and they don't win. So if I'm going to lose, I may as well swing for the fences. Give me the Bears to upset the Lions. Yeah. A lot of injuries, man. A lot of injuries.
I don't hate it. And I like that methodology. I almost went with the Giants over the Falcons for that reason because I think the juice is there and I like the points, right? But just not quite trusting Drew Lock and the Giants to get it done. I'm going Seahawks over Vikings. Seahawks have a ton to still play for. They are hungry. I know the Vikings still do as well, but it's at home in Seattle. Give me the Seahawks.
Total bet of the week, I'm going to go under 47 between the Cardinals and the Panthers. Cardinals defense has gotten better. I'm fading December Kyler Murray, and I'm also going to fade Bryce Young. I was an idiot for betting on the Panthers last week. Bryce Young is who I thought he was. I will fade both quarterbacks and take the under 47 Cardinals-Panthers.
Yeah, I like the under there as well, but there's another game that I like just a little bit more, and that's the Rams and the Jets over 46. The Jets defense is not the same. The Rams have the ability at least to put up a ton of points. I think they do in this game. I think the Jets score enough to, again, it does look like Rodgers and Devontae Adams are starting to get a real nice connection, so give me the over in this one.
One last fantasy question. Would you start, you missed Lior, Chris, but would you start Javonte Williams, Jalen Coker, Tajay Spears, or Zach Charbonnet as a second flex? I think you start Zach Charbonnet, right? Is Kenneth Walker back?
He's still questionable, right? So you'll have to find out, but I don't think Javonte Williams, I just don't trust the Broncos timeshare. Tajay Spears is interesting, right? Again, I think that may be the guy. I think it's between Tajay and Zach Charbonnet. That's what it comes down to for me. Keep an eye on Tony Pollard. Keep an eye on Kenneth Walker. Just see what's going on between those two right there. But I think it's between Spears and Charbonnet is a clear cut, at least in my opinion, 1-2.
And I'm not going to take a second or third string Panthers wide receiver. No, thank you. No. So because even Charbonnet has been the better running back in terms of yards per carry compared to Kenneth Walker. So I'll take Zach Charbonnet. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe to Stack in the Box on YouTube. Rate and review the audio version of this podcast. We'll be back Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern for a super edition of Stack in the Box. Best of luck to all your bets. If you do play some bets this weekend, sign up for Underdog Fantasy using code Stacking the box, all one word, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Enjoy the action. Talk to you next week. Bye.